What is good, everybody? This is Charles from Team COG coming at you guys here today with a combo tutorial or a combo line to showcase you guys what happens when you use connector and you see Nib in the hand. So many people have asked me, well, if you normal summon connector, get Dolphin, you see Nib, what is the next step you go to? And my excuse has always been just try to get to Gear Freed as quickly as you can. So that way, you do your combo and on your 5th summon, you get nibbed, you end up just getting back Gear Freed in the process, and then you just end up ending on a Gear Freed. However, thanks to my YouTube livestream chat, we've actually been able to find out that, I shouldn't say we, but they have showed me a way that you can play through Nibiru and possibly play around it. So, with that being said, I'll go ahead and jump into it, but if you guys enjoy the mat and enjoy the content, please think about going down to the links down in the description below, become a member, check out the store, all that fine jazz. So anyway, we'll go ahead and jump on into this combo tutorial. So guys, in order for this combo to work, you essentially need connector along with Renaud. And the only reason you need connector is because you got to see that the nib is coming in order to make these plays. So with that being said, normally connector and Renaud never work well together. That's the number one complaint people have with connector, is that Renaud doesn't work with it. But in this scenario, it will work very well in this way. But if you end up normal summoning connector and you see the nib, you just end up using your Heritage of the Chalice, your Durandal, whatever you need to go ahead and grab Renaud, and you're going to be able to either beat the nib or play through it. It's very player dependent, and we will showcase you what I mean by that when we get to that point. So to start out with, guys, you just end up normal summoning the connector. Use connector's effect to go ahead and bring out Dolphin. So of course, when you bring out the Dolphin, you'll go ahead and you'll discard a card. So you'll have 3 random cards in your hand. You just go ahead and discard it, and you'll get to take a peek at the hand. So Dolphin comes down, you go ahead and discard. Look at the hand, you see that they have Nibiru, the Primal Being. So right now, you realize that at your 5th summon, more than likely, you're going to get rocked. And so what do we do and how do we beat it? So with that being said, we go ahead and link these guys into Isolde. Where there she is. Isolde. We'll go ahead and use Isolde's first effect to go ahead and add whatever you would like. I'm just going to go ahead and, for the sake of the video, add my Roland to be able to have, that next turn follow-up. We'll go ahead and activate Isolde's effect, paying the cost, and this time you're going to send 4. You're going to send, of course, the standard Durandal, DDR, Divine Sword, and Joyous. So these 4s go here to the grave, and then you get to summon out YuGiOh. YuGiOh's effect now triggers. Normally, I would say you send a Gear Freed, you send your Turpin, but in this case scenario, if you know that Nib is in the hand, you send Ricardetto. So you go ahead and find yourself Ricardetto and send him to the graveyard. So if you guys do not know, we are currently on our lovely, lovely 4th summon. So then we special summon out Renaud. We go ahead and use Renaud's effect to go ahead and grab back the DDR. Now this is where it gets to be a player's choice, right? Some players will just quickly nib here, and then some players will hold the nib and wait for us to get more involved by getting out our Angelica, exhausting it, and so on and so forth. So we're going to showcase you guys 2 scenarios here now. Scenario 1 is going to be that they do not nib us on the 5th summon, and that we get to play. So right here, this is their last chance to use that nib, and if they decide not to, we go ahead and link off here for a Apollousa Bow of the Goddess. We're not warrior locked, we're still in free range to do whatever we want. And his Apollousa will be for 3. And then you go ahead and use the Divine Sword Phoenix Blade by banishing at the minimum of Ricardetto and Isolde. Or like any other warrior, you just cannot banish YuGiOh. Do not banish YuGiOh using the Phoenix Blade. You go ahead and you fire off the DDR, pitching the Phoenix Blade you just added to reborn back out the Ricardetto. Ricardetto will then reborn back out YuGiOh. You go ahead and you synchro here for Angelica, the Queen of Noble Arms. Angelica's effect on summon will allow us to take a trip to the museum. You go ahead and activate the museum. Go ahead and grab yourself the Almas. You go ahead and banish 2 more warriors for Divine Sword Phoenix Blade. We'll just go ahead and banish Connector and the Dolphin to go ahead and get them out of the way. And then we go and activate Blade onto Angelica. Of course, you chain Angelica. It's elementary, my dear boys. It's elementary. You go ahead and do that. Send the Turpin, banish herself, and she allows Roland to join the fray into the fight against this giant rock that's coming down. So then, once you do this right here, you end up going ahead and equipping the Almas. You don't have to. You can hold the Almas. It's just I'm going to use it to go ahead and recard something back. Go ahead and use the effect here to special summon itself. We can go ahead and synchro here for our lovely Charles. We'll go ahead and use the effect of Almas, and you're going to go ahead and grab back any card you really want for recursion. This card, don't forget Turpin gets banished. So we're going to go ahead and add back Renaud for a follow-up, right? So then we can go ahead and use Captain Roland to go ahead and equip to the Charles, and then we link down here into Emperor Charles the Great. Emperor Charles will attach the normal Charles. Then you can use the field spell, since we have not used it, to go ahead and special summon out Charles again. Once you do this, you can banish 2 warriors, which can be Ricardetto, and it looks like it'll have to be Turpin. Or not Turpin, Ricardetto and Ogier, to go ahead and add Divine Sword. Now, if you actually fired off earlier, if you banished Ricardetto or Renaud earlier, you could have added that back too. But anyway, you'll just go ahead and equip this to Charles. Go ahead and link the Charles off into your... and this right here is your ending board with, by playing or seeing the Nib. So right here you have 3 monster negates, spell and trap. Not to mention you're going to be able to do some pretty... you have follow-up in the form of Renaud and Roland here going to be able to grab you stuff. So yeah, that's what happens when you see Nib, and if they decide to not Nib you, the player, they should decide to be like, to hold it off, wait for a more opportune time, so they just get punished for holding the Nib. In this scenario right here, if you take note, they have 1 card, you've ripped 1 card in their hand, and they have a Nib which is already dead, so that means they're only going to have, I think, 4 cards left in their hand that are live, and you're going to be able to interact with like almost all of them. You have 2 spell and trap negates, a quick effect pop, and 3 monster negates, so... That's pretty cool. We'll go ahead and wrap it up and go into the scenario where you do get nibbed. Okay, guys, so here we are. This is where we are going to get nibbed. So we're on our 4th summon, summoning out Ogier. Ogier sends Ricardetto. You then special summon out the Renaud, making our 5th summon here, and Renaud's effect will trigger on summon to add back the DDR. Now here we do end up getting nibbed. The rock does smack down, and we get a token. We get a big fat token right here. So now, very similar to the first line, you end up using Phoenix Blade by banishing at the bare minimum of 1 warrior and 1 Ricardetto, and then you go ahead and fire off DDR, pitching, summoning out Ricardetto, and then of course Ricardetto brings out Ogier. You then go ahead and synchro here for Angelica, because you need to make the Angelica, I don't know what to say. Go ahead and use Angelica to go ahead and grab herself the field spell. She always takes us to a trip to the museum, and we'll activate the field spell, and then we'll use the field spell's effect to go ahead and grab herself Almus. Now we have 2 options moving forward. You can either push forward and end on Double Charles, or you can push forward and end on Gearfried. It's entirely up to you and what you would like to do. So for the sake of this combo, though, we will go ahead and showcase how to end on Charles and Gearfried. If you're trying to play around Super Poly, if you see that they've hit us with Nib and they have a Super Poly in hand, you definitely want to do Double Charles, because you'd be able to protect yourself from being Super Poly that way. It's entirely up to what type of knowledge you have and like what you know that's going to come. So, but for the sake of the video, we'll just go ahead and showcase you Charles and Gearfried. So then, of course, Divine Sword. Go ahead and banish Renaud and banish Connector. It does not matter. Then go ahead and activate Blade, using Blade's effect to send the Phoenix, Gearfried. I guess in this scenario, it does matter. Do not banish Ogier in this line as well, because you need Ogier to be able to make Charles. So we're going to go ahead and summon out Roland. If you guys do not know, they see us Roland. They are definitely hating. And then you have options. Like I said, you can honestly do really whatever you kind of want to do. We'll go ahead and use the Ogier's effect to attach to Roland. Go ahead and use the museum to special summon it. And then we'll go ahead and synchro off here for the OG Emperor Charles. You then can go ahead and equip the Almus to Charles, link it off into Charles the Great, which should be Charlemagne, but beggars can't be choosers, I guess. And then, of course, Charlemagne will be Chainlink 1, Almus Chainlink 2. Almus will add back the Gearfried, and then this will equip Charles. So now this is what you're staring down at. We'll go ahead and fire off Gearfried and banish 1 equip spell from our deck to go ahead and summon out Gearfried here. So with this being said, this is what you're able to do through Nibiru. They have a Nibiru token. Charles is going to pop the Nibiru token. And, if you already ripped 1 card out of their hand with Dolphin, they've literally you've kind of hand-looped them for 2 in a way. But the only thing is that, you are susceptible to Super Poly, but if you do see Super Polys in the hand along with Nibiru, it's very easy to go ahead and you send Turpin instead of sending Gearfried, and then you're able to make Double Charles, which protects you from being Super Polyed. And not to mention you have Roland follow-up. And again, same thing always counts, is you're always able to use Charles during the end phase to pick up an equip spell, so you can pick up Durandal, and then you can either pick up Oliver, or you could pick up Malgus and use Malgus effect to go ahead and draw, so then you're ending with 2 cards in your hand, or you're starting your opponent's turn with 2 cards in your hand. Not to mention that this combo sequence, you still have 2 cards in your hand because you only pitched 1 with Dolphin, so you technically would have 3 cards still in your hand. Whether that be your hand traps or whatever it might be, it's still pretty good. But this is how we end up beating Nibiru. I believe that this is very solid. I've had tons of people ask me, what happens when you do see Nibiru, and I really didn't have a good answer. But now, thanks to my YouTube stream chat, we've actually been able to get a solid answer, and I believe this actually convinces me to play Appaloosa, simply because the extra deck is so not like restricted in a way. You have like so many open spots. The argument I had for playing Appaloosa was that you get warrior locked. Well, yeah, you do, but you also have the ability to like do things before you do get warrior locked. But if you guys enjoyed this combo sequence, please remember to give a like, comment, and subscribe. And most importantly, check out the links down in the description below. And this is Charles from Team COG, signing out.